What's up, good people? You got Lavelle here, aka Vell, and welcome back to my channel where we bond over our favorite TV shows, trending topics, and everything in between that we care about. So today we are doing our weekly review of the Real Housewives of Atlanta season 13. We're now on episode 7, which was titled The Jet Set and the Upset. So this is the episode of the season where we start to get to see the full foolishness of Kenya in full effect. We start with Cynthia, who's driving around and she's trying to get in touch with the girls. All I really gathered from that scene was that she was trying to normalize texting while driving. And I'm like, this is crazy. Why are they showing so much footage of her breaking the law, playing with her phone and trying to call people all while driving? And it was like most of her drive. That was crazy. And I'm like, anybody paying attention to what you guys are filming and putting out there and normalizing? Then we get to Drew and Ralph. They seem to be getting to a pretty good place. After the passing of his father, I don't know if it made him look at life differently and appreciate his family in a way that he didn't before, but it looks like when they're having their interactions, they're more in tune with each other. There's a little bit more connection and affection and things of that nature. So in this episode, they are starting to get ready for the move into their new house. One of the dilemmas that they had was that this girls' trip is actually during the time frame that they'll be preparing for their move. So Drew and Ralph were talking about that, and Drew was saying how much she really needed to get away and kind of hit the reset. And surprisingly, Ralph, being the tyrant of an alpha male that we've seen in previous episodes, was saying that he would hold it down and actually let her have that break that she really needed. So to me, that's showing a different side of Ralph. So maybe in the beginning we saw the worst that Ralph has to offer, and maybe we're seeing the other side of him, the part that she fell in love with. And hopefully, you know, they're really healing and working this thing out. Then we get to Kenya's and Toya's lunch, which turned out to be another odd scene to me between these two ladies. I'm a little lost at what's going on here, because in this scene, Kenya gives Latoya her lingerie, her underwear, and I could see maybe gifting that. But Kenya was saying, you know, she was going through her closet, her drawers or whatever, and she had some nice underwear that she had not worn as of yet. And from what she's saying, it was like no longer her size. And she gifted it to Latoya. And I don't know if I'm just tripping on this situation because of the fact that it's the two of them and it's been so much flirting back and forth. But the other side of it is that makes me say it's not all me, it's not all in my head, is the fact that when Kenya gave Latoya the underwear, she sniffed them. Now, they were brand new, but she sniffed them. Who does that? But she sniffed them in a more sensual way. And I'm like, she's doing too much. I don't know. What is this going on? Like, is Latoya really into Kenya in that way? Or is this like she planned it up for TV? I don't know. I don't know if time will tell. I'm really lost at this situation between the two of them. But this is where it gets interesting. So Kenya is telling Latoya about the trip and the plan for them to go ahead of the rest of the girls. The rest of the girls, she's planning on them being in a Sprinter and taking a road trip to South Carolina. However, her and Latoya were going to go ahead of the rest of the girls, but they were going to fly on a private jet because Kenya was bringing Brooklyn and the nanny, and she wanted Brooklyn to be as comfortable as possible. And I'm calling BS on that, because a baby does not need a private jet to be comfortable. They need a nice car seat and some toys and some food and a clean diaper. So I wasn't buying that at all. I really feel like Kenya was doing that to get the pot stirring. She knew what she was doing. Like, she knew that that was going to create drama. Because on top of that, she claimed that the reason she wasn't going to have the other girls on the jet as well is because it was going to get too expensive. She was saying because it was going to get too expensive because she would have to get a bigger jet, and she wasn't going to flip the bill for that. But if any of them wanted to fly private, they were welcome to do so at their own expense. The problem is, she never mentioned this to any of the girls during the planning so that they could make that decision for themselves. She booked her flight and then told them they were going to be on a van, with them having the assumption that she was going to be there with them. Then we get to Drew's party. All the women are coming to her house, I think for the first time, if I'm not mistaken, or definitely most of them, it was their first time coming to her home. Now, she had a beautiful setting. She had a personal chef. They had a little bar with the bartenders. I thought all of that was cool and cute. However, the most irritating part for me, and I think it irritates me anytime I go to parties of any sort, is that there was no one tending to the door. So you had people showing up, knocking and ringing the doorbell, and Drew and her husband aren't noticing that people were at the door. And with Cynthia being the first to arrive and her having to wait to be able to get in, it looks like that at a certain point they would have said, hey, you know, somebody stay close and really pay attention to the door. But no, Kendi ended up having to let herself in. And I'm like, after that, could you make sure someone's at the door? And the next thing you know, Kenya is in the same position where she's waiting. And eventually Drew asked Ralph to do that. But Ralph just was not doing a good job at tending to that door. So then the ladies are sitting on the back patio and they're having drinks and they're conversing. And then Wiggate comes up. So Portia knew full well what she was doing. She came and she was planning to expose Latoya, telling Drew that Latoya was dragging her for her wig and saying that it was lifted up and you could see the glue and all of these other things. And then Drew is like, I don't even know her. Like, why is she attacking me? I don't even know the girl.
Latoya, she's my biggest fan. I can't. And that's all I'll say about that one. I've been taking a sip of water.
And then Portia added to it by saying, and I wasn't the only one who heard it. Kendi and Cynthia were there too. So then that caused Drew to become shady right back at her. So in her confessional, she came for what Latoya did for a living. So Drew asked the producer, what does she do? And then the producer said, she makes YouTube videos. And Drew was like, oh, that's a job? So, like, as entertaining as Drew's read was, she was taking a shot at Latoya, but inadvertently also took a shot at the over 100,000 professional YouTube creators. Like, it is a real career. And the truth is, Latoya might have as much money, if not more money, than Drew actually does with her YouTube career. So yes, Drew, YouTubing is a real career. Now, the other thing for me was, I have been wondering, why is Kenya having such a hard time with Drew? Like, we've already seen some of the social media dragging. Well, in the first couple episodes, for one, we saw that Kenya just, I don't know, she wasn't feeling her. And now we're starting to see it build up. Now, for me, this episode revealed definitely probably where they started to completely go wrong, where Kenya felt wronged by Drew. And you know how Kenya is. If she feels slighted by you, it's a wash. And so what had happened was, Kenya actually told Drew that she had chartered a private plane for her and Latoya to go ahead of the other girls and that the rest of them were going to be on a Sprinter. However, after telling her that, Kenya also texted Drew back and said, this is a secret, basically don't tell the other girls because they don't know. And so I guess like many of us, Drew thought that Kenya was being bogus as hell for that private jet foolishness. And so she took the opportunity at her dinner party while Kenya was talking about the itinerary and how the girls were going to meet up. She was like, oh, so are you going with us? And already knowing the answers, she's poking and prodding at Kenya to get her to have to say how she's getting there, which is the private jet, which then comes out. And Portia's like, oh, hell no. So it was a wash then. And so all the women are looking like, what the hell is that about? But Kenya being Kenya tries to justify it. And so in her confessional, Kenya is acting like there was no big deal about it. And so at the dinner table with the women, she's, you know, trying to explain it like it made logical sense, which it didn't. But then in her confessional, she tries to justify it by saying she needed to do what was best for her family. A private jet, a private jet. For what, I think it was a 2.5, 3 hour drive. 2.5, 3 hour drive versus a private jet. Like, really? So we get to the day of the South Carolina trip. Kenya and Toya take a chauffeured SUV to their private jet and head to South Carolina in class. Latoya, once again being flirty with Kenya, is like, thank you, sugar mama, for making my dreams come true. I'm like, she's doing the most. And the other question is, what is Latoya's storyline outside of Kenya? And that brings to mind another thing. As we're getting, what is this, we're in episode 7. Latoya has been in, I think, every single episode, if I'm not mistaken, or she just wasn't in last week. I can't remember, but correct me if I'm wrong. But long story short, she's definitely been in 90% of the episodes leading up to now. What is Latoya's storyline besides her relationship with Kenya and the fact that she wants to cut, drag, and read the girls? What else is there? Like, what is her personal life? I've checked out her YouTube channel, so she has a family. She has her ex-husband and their drama, and she has kids and assistants and all of that stuff. So I'm like, when are we going to see that side, or are we going to see that side? Because how much content can we actually get out of her just being Kenya's friend now? Like, I don't know. Let me know what y'all think about that too. So as I said, Kenya and Toya have been whisked away in their private jet, while the other girls are meeting up at Kendi's house and loading up into the Sprinter. Now, what I thought was so funny was that Portia and Shamia got on the Sprinter first, and Portia started to sage the van. She was like, Clintie's bad spirits so we can have a nice trip. And I thought that was hilarious. And she was serious because it was lit. Oh, and I forgot another thing about the private jet. So in the scene where they're showing some footage of them flying on the private jet, I noticed that Brooklyn's face was blurred out. And in another little scene they had her in as well. And I'm like, Brooklyn has been seen on the show like a ton of times, like from her birth on and on social media. So now why is she blurred out? And I'm like, that must have something to do with Mark. But you guys let me know. Now I know, you know, there's somewhat of a little custody battle and him trying to control Kenya and what she can and can't do as it pertains to Brooklyn. And so I'm like, that's a very controlling thing for him, because like it was fine before and now it's not. But is it now not fine just because you're not in the picture, or you're just trying to give Kenya a hard time? Like, I don't know. It's just an a-hole move at this point. Now I can see if he was like that from the very beginning, but to change it up down the line, now she's what, almost 2 or something, that's just bogus. But the other side of that was that Kenya was really bogus for not giving the other ladies an opportunity to bring their children as well. It's kind of like, how are you placing a higher importance on your child being able to be with you than those other women also being able to have their children with them as well? Their children are extremely important to them as well. That was just grimy and cringeworthy on a different level. But Kenya's been known to do worse. But anyway, the ladies get on the hot Sprinter and head to South Carolina, and they were laughing and joking and complaining about how hot the Sprinter was.
It's hot.
So obviously they also got a Sprinter that didn't have good air on it, which is crazy. And I don't know, did Kenya do that on purpose as well? Because a Sprinter is generally not that bad of a road trip situation, especially for 2.5, 3 hours. But once you get rid of the ability to have a comfortable temperature on the van, that can make it a hellish ride. But all in all, I felt like this episode was actually starting to pick up. We had some interesting things going. You had some plot lines, you had some twists, you had some drama. It was actually giving us something. It wasn't as dry as some of the previous episodes have been. And then this particular episode actually has a part 2. So I feel like things are ramping up. I think we're moving into Strippergate, which, you know, we'll see how that goes. But it definitely seems like the drama and feuds are about to be in full force moving forward. So I don't know about you, but I'm definitely ready for it. So with that, if you're new to this channel or returning and you have not subscribed as of yet, this will be a great time for you to subscribe below and click that notification bell. And don't forget to join our text community for new video notifications, as well as the ability to direct message me via text. And lastly, also follow me on all major social media platforms at IAmVellB. Yes, IAmVellB. So with that, until next time, until I upload the next video, make sure to take care and be blessed. Peace.